How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, here with my guy with the terrific, terrific avatar. That is Willie Mays. Good touch, Corey Rain.
Yes, sir. Had
Very
to
good
pay
touch.
tribute. Had to pay tribute.
Yeah, man. Phenomenal ball player. Really good touch on that. On tonight's show, we're keeping it baseball. We are going to speak about our favorite team, the New York Yankees. We're going to talk about what we think they need going into the deadline and just what we see in terms of the temperature of the club right now. They snapped a mini losing streak. It's not a mini losing streak if you are on social media. One would question if you have Yankee fans that are actually jumping off of bridges and just doing a lot of dumb stuff. We're also going to hit on Major League Baseball on the whole, what we see around the league. Um, yeah, Corey and I are up to the task. A good idea that we had this AM. I am actually sitting in my truck, but that will not deter us from bringing you the goods on the Yankees as well as the rest of Major League Baseball. We will be back in just a moment. Enjoy this intro. All right, we are back. Richie X Jr. Sports Podcast. Corey, I was not able to watch the game today. However, I did keep an eye on the events. Uh, Give me a rundown. What were your thoughts on today's game, top to bottom? I do know that Giancarlo Stanton unfortunately tweaked the hamstring. Aaron Boone said he will miss some time. We do not
Yes.
know the significance until tomorrow's MRI. But on the whole, what were your thoughts on today's victory over the Atlanta Braves?
I thought it was really a solid professional start by Marcus Stroman tonight. He gave us innings. He held the Braves down. He kind of got short porch towards the end a little bit with that home run he gave up. But he gave the team exactly what they needed. And the offense was patient. They grinded Morton down, and they got some clutch hits. Cabrera had a couple of RBIs. Judge hit his major league leading 28th. And it was just overall a really solid victory. One that they needed. You know, it wasn't panic time, but they played well and hope to take the series tomorrow. And we wait on the news about Stanton.
Yeah, definitely concerning with Stanton because the sad thing about whenever Giancarlo seems to catch an injury, usually when he's playing his best ball of that
Yep.
particular.
It is always that way. I remember he made the All-Star team a couple of years back, and then he got hurt, and it messed up his rhythm.
Yes, I recall that. Yes.
It's always poor timing. Not that it's ever good timing to get hurt, but yeah. It is, you hope for the best. I mean, we've seen this movie before, obviously, but he's producing, and they need him because they don't have reinforcements right now. Dominguez is on the shelf again. So if he goes down for a couple of weeks even, who are they bringing up? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a legitimately good question. Now, what's interesting about some of the Yankee farmhands we have guys that are listed as infielders that have the dexterity and the versatility to enter the outfield. Because I'll be honest with you, when these kind of things happen, you can try to rough it out for a short period of time with the likes of a Trent Grisham, a Jahmai Jones, guys that have been around MLB and that, are experienced veterans. I mean, Grisham came in and hit a home run right away. Things happen, but definitely not the everyday solution you want. And to your point, with Dominguez getting injured yet again, the poor kid really can't catch a break. It seems that we just got to be patient. I think there might be help coming during the trade deadline. And
I
that's,
agree.
yeah, I would say, Corey, that's my next question. If you're the Yankees, what are you addressing positionally? And do you have some particular names that you would like to see don the pinstripes?
Yeah, I came up with some names today. I was kind of spitballing a little bit. There's a couple of them that I view as long shots, but I'm going to mention them anyway. One of the names is Jameer Candelario. I hope I'm saying that right, but he's a third baseman for the Reds. He has good power. He was actually born in New York. His defense is okay. It's serviceable, but I think he would be a good candidate. The only issue is he's signed for a couple more years, so they'd have to make the commitment there. It's not huge money, but they would have to commit to him being on the team for 2 years, so which isn't the worst, I guess.
I mean, we did do worse with Josh Donaldson, which was a very similar
Yep.
situation, committing to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, and he's
Not
not
worth the
he's
plan.
not old like Donaldson. He's like 29, 30, so he's not too bad.
All right, I like the shout. I'm going to make a shout, and it's not a particular player. It's particular teams. Actually, you know
Okay.
what? I will make a shout. The White Sox have a pretty good closer that plays on a very horrible team. Talking about Liam Hendricks. Would you consider approaching the Chicago White Sox to bring in the veteran?
Yes. The issue with the Yankees bullpen is they need more pitchers that can miss bats. They lack that right now. And their bullpen has hit a wall. Obviously, they were doing well earlier in the season, but they need guys that can miss bats, and they're going to be very active in that market. But I do feel like those guys, they're everywhere. Like nowadays, you find guys off the street that throw 95. So I think they'll do okay in the reliever market, even if they don't go after a Mason Miller type, because that seems like a long shot. It seems like a stretch to me. He's under control for 5 years, and there's already rumors that he's having some elbow trouble as well. So that's a couple of things to consider there.
When guys get injured, Bichette got hurt. His name has been linked to various teams. Um, I like the idea of taking a chance on a Liam Hendricks because what I find interesting is that if you look at his track record, he's been incredibly consistent. And the one team that legitimately seems to own him is our Yankees.
Yep.
And the guy is a fighter. He overcame cancer. The ball club, I will shout them out, supported him really well during that trying time.
Absolutely.
But I do believe that you could kind of mix and match him and Holmes because if you recall, Corey, a couple of years ago, Clay Holmes was not exclusive to the ninth inning, where sometimes Boone would bring him in depending on matchups.
He wasn't. And that actually worked really well. Right now, you're looking at Luke Weaver and Holmes as the two main guys. Hamilton is down, and he hasn't been the same this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out. I've seen some crazies suggest that maybe Luis Gil, because of the stuff that he possesses,
Right.
goes into a closer or a setup role. And I must admit, I can't stop laughing about that because as far as I'm concerned, the kid has a shot at the Cy Young.
Right. And, people are making a big issue out of him having a rough start, but it was inevitable. I mean, nobody's going to be perfect all season. Nobody goes out there and makes 30 starts and is 30 great starts. It's impossible. So,
Yeah, it's comical to say the least. I don't necessarily know if we have the answer in house, but what's interesting is that when the 40-man roster comes in a couple of months, we will possibly retain a couple of guys that you don't necessarily have penciled in right now for the postseason roster. One of them is actually with the big club right now. I'm of course talking about Ben Rice. Well, I must
yes,
admit, he's got a really cool demeanor.
I like him. There's something about him. Now, does that mean he's going to be great? No, we don't know that, but I think they need to ride with him for now. And LeMahieu is going to bounce around and play first and play third, but I really think if they lose Stanton, though, they'll have, if it's significant, they'll have to make a trade. If it's not significant, you ride it out. There is one youngster in the minor leagues that could step in as a DH, and he's getting rave reviews. His name is Augustine Ramirez. He's actually a catcher, but he can hit, really, really hit. He just got promoted to AAA, actually. And he's like, I heard a
Yeah,
scout talking
because
about
we gave
him.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gave up on a catchers in the past couple of seasons. Ben Rourke, we let go of in a deal. We actually, for if I'm not mistaken, it was for John Berti.
Yep.
And we moved on also from Gary Sanchez not too long ago, a couple of seasons, really not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And Jose Trevino, since the Boston series, seems to have really significantly lost confidence behind the plate in terms of now this is the thing. I remember when it happened with Knobloch with the fielding.
Yeah.
Trevino is a gamer, and he is
Yes.
not that far removed from being an all-star. But having said that, I do believe that Jose's best days with the Bombers are actually behind him, and that's not
Yeah.
of
I
Jose.
think eventually he'll move to a backup role. He's actually not been bad with the bat this year.
No, he is not. I actually took a gander at his stats just the other night, and I do like him. He's a gamer. He's a smart baseball player. He's a great clubhouse presence. But, the reality is, in today's MLB, unless if you have a stud, you're usually running with two catchers that
Yeah.
sometimes get split duty. I
See,
do Austin Wells' ceiling, but he hasn't met his potential yet. And I do believe that we can survive for now. We can survive for now. But to your point, you could carry the third catcher if Stanton does indeed hit the IL for a significant amount of time.
one of the reasons why I would consider that too is because I believe that if Austin Wells got consistent at bats, you're going to see him hit better. I truly believe that. And
Well,
kudos to him for having good defense and working with the pitching staff the way he has, because he's done a tremendous job.
well, Corey, I think it's a really significantly good point because it's difficult to get better when you're only playing one every 5 or 6 days.
Yep.
And that's just the way things go. The experience, nonetheless, however it goes, is still invaluable.
Yes.
Alex Verdugo, in my opinion, gains life to extend his Yankee career because of the hardships of a Jason Dominguez.
Yeah. Jason Dominguez is a question mark at this point. He hasn't proven anything. We all know what he can be, but what he is right now is injury prone at 21 years old, which is disheartening. Like,
Yeah, less than ideal, definitely disheartening. But because of his youth and because of the ceiling, the talent level, he's going to be protected for now.
yeah.
And the Yankees, I'm sure, given the length of the Aaron Judge deal, and they're going to hope to join in that with a lengthy Juan Soto deal. The hope is that Dominguez can be the center fielder of the future, which, in my
Yeah.
opinion, would force Judge eventually to either a full-time DH, or you might get a little split deal where Judge may actually get action down the road at first base. Now, when I say down the road, I'm talking more like when he gets to like 35 years old. We got some time yet.
Yeah, because I think Judge is going to be right now. He's playing like he's the best player in baseball, honestly.
And I don't care if I sound like a homer. He is. He is
He
the
is.
position player in Major League Baseball. I understand the Ruthian dynamic of a Shohei Ohtani, but the thing is, with Ohtani not being a pitcher this year, Ohtani is still one of the finest hitters in the game. And if he
Yep.
never throws another pitch, he's still one of the finest hitters in the history of the
Yep.
game.
But let's also mention the fact that if he doesn't pitch, does he have a position? Not really.
That's a good point. That is a very, very valid point. I'm going to give you a list of a couple of guys, Corey, that I want to see off my baseball club within the next calendar year. I've been patient, but I think it's time to Torres.
Yes, agreed.
I absolutely love Anthony Rizzo and everything he stands for, but the bottom line is, at that position, especially on a Yankee ball club, he cannot be carried any longer. I think
No.
his value for the remainder of the season, and I actually said this to Zappy on a phone call earlier today, is to get in the ear of a young Ben Rice and to be a mentor to him.
Yeah, and Rice is a bright kid. He went to Dartmouth. He actually grew up in Massachusetts, but was a Yankee fan anyway. So it's like, yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely. Easy guy to like. But since you mentioned the Red Sox, Corey, I have to ask you this. They are playing pretty good ball, all in all, in a very competitive AL East. They most definitely have an opportunity to be a strong wild card and a team that you have to take serious.
Yes.
In your opinion, do the Red Sox go into buying mode, or do you think that they're going to disappoint their fan base and not do the little extra that can potentially propel them to a postseason push in the sense of doing something when they get there? Because I'll be honest with you, we have a whole half a season left. But in my humble opinion, I do believe the Boston Red Sox are going to be one of the wild cards.
I think they definitely could be. I think they can really hit. They've got some athleticism. I really like Jared Duran. Devers speaks for himself. I don't know when it comes to ownership right now with them. I don't know if they'll make a big splash. So that's the thing you have to worry about. But they are a dangerous club, and the one thing you would say is they need pitching. So will their ownership actually step up and put their money where their mouth is? And that remains to be seen.
Yeah, they're one of the two teams that Pete Alonso has been linked to with recent resurgence of the New York Mets, winning actually 8 of their last 10 games.
They're playing better. They did lose tonight, but they are playing better.
I think Alonso is going to be retained for the remainder of the season, and the Mets are going to hope that they can keep him. However, I do believe that Alonso will not be a New York Met next year. I believe that he's going to be coming over to the American League East, and I legitimately believe it can be one of 3 teams. It can be the Blue Jays, it can be the Orioles, or it can be the Bo Sox. I really believe that.
I don't think it'll be the Blue Jays because I think they're going to go into sell mode. Because I think they see the writing on the wall. Bichette and Vlad are going to be free agents after next year, and they're not good this year, period.
Yeah, they're not good enough. That's for damn sure. And I think the patience variable has to be past due at this point because, number one, the Yankees have owned them for the better part of 4 seasons. They have not been good enough to
Nope.
playoffs. They've gotten close. They did. The point is, they're not going to be any better than they've been. So you basically feel that both Bichette and Guerrero will be in new uniforms maybe as early as July?
I think, oh gosh. I think Bichette could be. I think Vlad is. I don't know, man. That's a tough question. Yeah, I think it's possible.
Because I
I
say
think
to myself, regardless of transitional times, and if you got to go a few steps back before going a few steps forward, every team does try to make an onus of having your face of a franchise.
Yep.
And I say to myself, who is that going to be for the Toronto Blue Jays? You have some second generation talents that are on that club, but the truth of the matter is, it has not risen to the top the way that many of us a couple of years ago
No.
thought it may have.
They were the hyped squad. Biggio is not even there anymore. He's with the Dodgers, and he's been a big disappointment.
Yes.
Vlad has not been the same. He's still a really good hitter, but he has not been the same since his MVP season, his MVP type season a couple of years ago. Bichette is a great player. We know that, but he's not. He's been had a down season, and now he's hurt. So, what does it say to their fans though? If those guys are young, they're not over the hill. So, what does it say to their fans if you actually trade them? Who are you replacing them with?
No, that's a valid point, Corey. That is a
Yeah,
very valid point. And in my genuine opinion, um, I think that one of them gets retained, but I'm not convinced
yeah.
which one it is. And the thing with Vlad is you want to move on from him while his value is still the highest it could be because, truthfully, I think Vlad is a couple of years away from being a full-time DH.
He is, and I actually think you keep Bichette character wise, and I think Vlad absolutely is going to become a DH eventually. He has had issues with his weight in the past. Um, I don't know. You can't get rid of both of them, in my opinion.
Now, one of them has to stay, and I do tend to agree with you that the right guy to choose is Bichette because he is of a more important position on any and all ball clubs.
And he's a
So,
gamer.
absolutely. And he's got the baseball acumen. I'm not trying to take a crap on Vlad, but I'll be honest with you. I had the pleasure of seeing his father play. I've seen him
As
play.
did I.
And while Vlad had the huge push in his career, I don't think that he's as good as his father.
No, he hasn't
I don't think
proven it
he's as
yet.
well or has the work ethic. Yeah, he doesn't have the work ethic of his father, in my genuine opinion.
No. His father had a long career. He was an MVP. He was one of the best bad ball hitters of all time.
Absolutely.
Vlad has not proven anything except he's had a couple of great seasons, and now he's regressed a little bit.
Yeah, I do tend to agree, Corey. He's not the guy he was a couple of years ago. He's kind of lost some of that luster. A guy who's kind of on the uptick again after his reputation as well as his baseball card numbers went down. Um, Fernando Tatis, I believe, is getting further and further away from, the bad image situations with being tagged, being suspended, missing half a year. And
Right.
I will say that I give them on my halfway report card, so to speak. I think the Padres are doing a really good job considering that they were supposed to suck this year.
Yes, they are. The problem with the trade deadline is that there's really only a handful of teams that are out of it right now.
Well,
Like,
with the expanded wild card
yeah,
situation, you
there's
got to
some
be a
yeah.
different kind of crappy to be out
So
of it.
we really don't know. Like, we might have to wait another 30 days till we really see the full picture.
Yeah, I tend to agree. In the National League, I feel that although it's all congested, you can kind of get a vibe of the teams that are rising versus the
Yep.
teams pretending. And I think the Mets are literally the quintessential example of dead in the middle, where a potential move or two can propel them into actually being somebody that you have to consider. Because the God's honest truth is, while the Atlanta Braves have won a world championship without Ronald Acuna Jr. in the past, let's not forget they still had Freddie Freeman and they had a hell of a pitching staff. Right now, I think the Atlanta Braves are holding on to dear life.
They are. I still think they're a good team, but I think Philly is better this year. Um, and you remember the year they won the World Series? They struck hot on a couple of bats like Adam Duvall and Soler. You know.
Yeah, certain guys rose to the occasion, and the God's honest truth is, if the New York Mets make a move or two, I think they shorten the gap with Atlanta in a big way.
Yeah, and for the Mets, they need help. They're on a hot streak, so if they're gonna be buyers, so to speak, they would need another bat, and they would need another. They would need more pitching. I mean, everybody needs bullpen help. Who doesn't want bullpen help?
Now, given the reputation of a guy like an Uncle Stevie, do you see him as a buyer, or do you think that he'll stay put or move on from some big names, and maybe we do get what I believe would be a bit of a shock if they trade Alonso this particular year, because you're basically waving the white flag at that point. But,
Yeah,
shouts out to a friend of the show. Roughly a year ago or so, I was a guest on his show. He joined mine. Great baseball guy, super knowledgeable, Mr. Sergio Rodriguez. And he basically made a great point about how in today's Major League Baseball, the difference between I wouldn't call him a no-name, but not a household name shortstop versus an overpaid, big-time money guy, the truth is, it's not that much difference in terms of the productivity if you average it out around that position in Major League Baseball. So when you have a
no,
guy like an Anthony Volpe,
and also they were talking about it on the broadcast tonight on Fox how offense is really down this year. I think the average OPS in MLB is 700. The average in MLB is 240. So pitching is so elite that people sometimes have to temper their expectations on how good they want their hitters to be on their favorite team.
yes, indeed. And when I consider the kind of seasons that a guy like an Aaron Judge and a guy like a Juan Soto are having, it really makes you appreciate it, because that is not the norm around MLB. Like, you have some players that will excel in certain statistical values. Like, you got a guy like a Kyle Schwarber who is doing a little better in terms of hitting for average. But, at the end of the day, he is what he is. A Bryce
Yeah.
Harper, his teammate, a little more rounded. But,
Yep.
I feel that you can make a legitimate argument that the New York Yankees have two of the best five offensive players in
Yep.
all of baseball. And if I had to say, okay, who would join these guys?
Absolutely. And I also believe that Stanton is actually outperforming a lot of stars.
Well, the thing with Stanton is that he's quietly hit 18 home runs. He's quietly approaching 240 before the unfortunate injury today. And,
Yep.
considering that this guy has basically been just at the Mendoza line the last couple of seasons, I've watched his approach at the plate, and that's why this loss is frustrating.
It
But,
is.
you got to hope that it's not as bad. But I think the
Right.
Yankees are smart enough to know that if they were able to get this far without the services of Garrett Cole up until this past week, without the ultra utility man, DJ LeMahieu, and listen, I'll be honest, that's another guy that, as much as I respect him, I am not his biggest fan in terms of holding up the spot now, because a personal frustration of mine as a fan is that the guy who was adversely affected the most is actually Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yeah.
And
I
I believe
actually
Ozzy belongs in the lineup damn near every day.
I'm actually gonna somewhat disagree with you because I like Cabrera, but I don't think he's the answer every day. I think I think the Yankees, when it comes to the middle infield, not shortstop obviously, but second base. If Torres leaves, what do you think they do there? Do they wait for a guy like Peraza to take the job? What do you think happens?
I think there's a distinct possibility that when we up it to the 40-man squad, they're going to really be honing in on shaking it up. Like, I have this vision, and I might be overreacting or maybe reaching a little, but I have a vision with the New York Yankees that next to veterans like Stanton, Soto, and Judge, you're going to have some dudes that did not contribute in the beginning of the year that might be selling their cases during the month of September because of the fact of the inadequacies of
Yep.
a Torres, of a Rizzo, and on
Yep.
certain metrics, LeMahieu. LeMahieu,
I
I
believe.
gotta give a little more grace to for a couple of reasons. He missed the entire year up until super recently,
Mm-hmm.
and the other value is the man can play third, second, and first.
And he plays all of them well. Like, I saw plays he was making at first base the other day, and I was like, Rizzo's not making those plays right now.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Rizzo, in my opinion, has been playing through a ton of pain for a long time.
I agree.
And I don't think, because when you look at the uncharacteristic errors and just some of the
Yep.
mistakes he made,
That's just not him.
no, not by any means. I expect that from Torres.
Yeah. Rizzo was a platinum glove winner. Like, it's like, even if he's an older player that's lost a step on defense, he's still not going to make those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, I do believe that this is the beginning of the end for Rizzo in the Bronx, possibly in MLB, but I do believe that all you can hope for is that he heals up well. But the thing is, like we were talking about Rice earlier in the show, if Ben Rice really steps it up and really finds a home in this lineup, it would be awfully difficult to get him out of there in favor of an Anthony Rizzo.
Absolutely.
And that could be one of those tough decisions that manager Aaron Boone has to make going into the playoffs, because, you can't carry everybody, even though certain guys have been huge contributors over the years for this particular era of Yankees baseball. In the American League, it goes without saying, the Baltimore Orioles player maybe a bopper away from just being that big of a problem.
And bullpen as well.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, dude. It truly is interesting, because I believe that like Alonso would make so much sense for them. It might not happen this year, but for the long term, that would make so much sense, because it allows guys to not be every day that shouldn't be every day. Like there are certain guys in that team that still haven't even met their full potential. Not to
Yeah.
mention, they're going to be looking for some help with the arms, because you said it the other night on the show. In October.
Yep. And it's going to be so interesting. I think the extra wild cards makes the trade deadline so much more intriguing, because the anticipation of who's actually going to be in or out of the race is just crazy.
Yeah, and truthfully, a lot of that will be sewed up, because this is the thing, right? You look at the Central in the American League. The Cleveland Guardians, Minnesota Twins, the Kansas City Royals, all of them have a legitimate case that they could win that division.
Yep.
In the Yankees and Orioles case, it may very well go down to the last couple of weeks of the season, if not the last couple of days of the season.
Yeah, I think Toronto and Tampa Bay are done.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but if I had to put money on one of them turning it around in the second half, it would be Tampa Bay. And
The
that's
scary
just
thing,
my respect for the manager that is.
right? I agree with that. The scary thing is Houston is slowly starting to turn it around, and you can't allow that team in the playoffs. That's all I can say.
I made this mention to Zappy earlier today. It's too early, but I'm going to tell you what I think. I think the Baltimore Orioles are going to muscle out the Eastern Division. Prove me wrong, Yankees. But that's my humble, unbiased opinion. I believe the Yankees will be the strongest wild card and possibly the second best record in all of baseball. I believe the Central is still going to go to the Guardians. They were my preseason pick. I think they have just enough balance to edge out the Royals. In the West, you might laugh at me for saying this, I think Zappy's Texas Rangers, by the time the season is over, are going to figure it out, because they're going to get healthy eventually, and they might be all coming back at the same time, which could be a huge shot in the arm for that organization. And that leaves a couple of wild card hopefuls. Is it the Royals? Is it the Twins? Is it, let's see, who else would we be considering here? The Red Sox, maybe, assuming that they make a move or two.
Seattle. If you're saying Seattle's not winning the division, then yeah.
I have a funky feeling Seattle might be the team on the outside looking in for one simple reason. They do not produce enough runs. And while I think you can make a case that they might have the best rotation in Major League Baseball, you still got to score.
They have a good bullpen too. I believe in Seattle. I think they're going to make a move for a bat.
If they're going to be a serious threat to knock out the Yankees, the Orioles, or assuming the Rangers get healthy and make a run. But to your point about the Astros, I'll be honest, I think they're going to sneak in.
They just took the series off Baltimore in a quick 48 hours.
Yeah, that's saying something. And, it was one of those very, very strange scenarios where I find myself rooting for a team that I truly loathe. Because I'll tell you what, Corey, I have no love for the Baltimore Orioles anyway. I respect what they're building over there. I think it's good for the division. I think it's good for them because they're an iconic franchise that was down for so long.
They are.
But truth be told, and this isn't even Baltimore's fault, I've always had like a bit of a disdain for them because I associate us playing them after the tragic death of our captain Thurman Munson. And mind you, I wasn't even alive yet.
Right.
But believe me, there's other moments in my life of being a fan. One of the most iconic brawls when Darryl Strawberry went Mike Tyson mode on Armando Benitez.
I can't count how many times I've watched that on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen it quite a few times myself. I don't know if I ever told you this story, Corey, but I was actually in attendance the day that we traded Armando Benitez to Seattle for Jeff Nelson, and it actually happened about 30, 40 minutes before the game started. So Nelson and Benitez, in addition to switching locker rooms, had to take off their uniforms and get redressed.
That was 2003, wasn't it?
It sure was. I was with my late father, as well as, come to think of it, Corey, wow, this just dawned on me. I moved to Florida during that baseball season. That season concluded losing to the Marlins, but we had the Aaron Boone heroics extending the curse for one more year, the curse of the Bambino. Actually, that was my final game in attendance at the old Yankee Stadium.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
My final game was 2007. Andy Pettitte was facing Arizona. It was a regular season game. And yeah, that was my final one.
Because I've chased the Yankees around many places. But truth be told, I had opportunities to see other games. But family life as I knew it in New York, that was kind of like an end of that part of my life. My father at the time was going his way. His way was, recently retired NYPD, moving to his version of paradise, which was Puerto Rico. For me, I moved to Florida, where I still live, and I frequent New York about once a year. But, I'm a Floridian now. And, we all kind of won our way. And this was just a little bit after we lost the patriarch of our family, my grandfather, Yogi. I made mention. So, it was a phenomenal game. Let's just say we were in no rush to leave that night.
I bet, man. Tell me if you agree with this or not. And I know a lot of Yankee fans won't, but 2003 bothers me more than 2004.
I do not share your sentiment on that, Corey, for the obvious, who we lost to, how we lost to them. But now, don't get me wrong. 2003 is a squandered opportunity that does bug me.
I thought they were a better team than the 2004 squad.
reasonable take. That I do agree with. I'm not sure if we would have won the World Series had we held on after the 3-0 lead that we gave up. But I will say this: we should have won the pennant. And the one that
Yep.
hurts me the most is not even a player. Don Mattingly was on the staff that year.
I know.
That's the one that hurts the most. You talk about always just the misfortune of
What
finding.
about Mike? What about Mike Messina? Him too. Like,
yeah, Moose is a guy that, because he was just so damn good, I think sometimes as fans, you have to remind yourself that he unfortunately never won a World Series.
yeah, it's different in baseball though. Sometimes, like, I feel like you can like give guys a pass for not having a ring because it's more circumstantial in baseball sometimes, like as opposed to like the NBA or you know what I'm saying. Like the NBA is more singular than baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Of all the major sports, undeniably, that is a true statement. Because no matter how great you are, like a Ken Griffey Jr., he's a nice starting point, or a Mike Trout.
Trout, yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, hell, prior to this year, what pennant race has Ohtani really been involved in?
None.
Exactly my point. And, you know, for a good 5 or 6 years, my baseball hero, Mr. 23 Don Mattingly, being the best player in baseball did not sway any kind of hope, because you're talking about an era in baseball that did not have the wild card. You know, there was no wild card in that era of Major League Baseball.
And they had some really good teams back then too.
Yes, because, you know, let's just say for argument's sake, if the wild card existed in 1986, you may have had the Subway Series way back then if the Yankees were a very strong second place team. Because I remember in '93 feeling that we were closing the gap on the Toronto Blue Jays, but would hurt because back then you had the West and the East, you didn't have all these other divisions. We were better than the White Sox that year.
Yep. There's 3 things that happened to the Yankees that changed their franchise, in my opinion. Buck Showalter was one of them. The second one was when Steinbrenner got suspended, Gene Michael took over. He started running things his way. And then the third thing was Paul O'Neill. I think that was just a major, major turning point for that team.
Well, the Roberto Kelly, Paul O'Neill trade in my life of being a Yankee fan was undeniably the most impactful. Some people, you know, off the top of their head would be like, oh, what about A-Rod acquiring A-Rod for Soriano?
Nope.
And, no, I say no. Oddly enough, Aaron Boone was responsible for that trade because busted up a provision in his contract that he was not to play organized basketball.
I remember.
He ended up tearing his knee, and I'll never forget it. I was eating really good at a truck stop. My late father was the guy who broke the news to me that we acquired Alex Rodriguez. Giancarlo Stanton and A-Rod are the 2 most recent MVPs to be traded in the offseason, both to our beloved Yankees. Why are we talking about these trades? It's because it's an indicator of how important this trade deadline business truly is.
It really is. It's exciting. You know, I always feel like the Yankees are going to do something. Does it mean they're going to make some huge, huge splash? Not necessarily, but there's moves to be made that can help the club.
Despite a recent slump and seeing some warts in the pen, when you and I both put our heads down tonight, our New York Yankees are still the best team in Major League Baseball.
Exactly.
And, you know, you always want to get better. And I'm a firm believer that you can never have enough arms. Whether it
you
be
can never have
starters,
enough arms.
But, you know, there's another thing. Schmidt gets healthy. Somebody's going to the pen. That could be the arm that the pen needs.
That is an underrated loss. people
Well,
kind of just shrug that off, and
Schmidt was definitely earning his keep, and Nestor Cortez, that quality start against the Orioles was huge for his immediate future.
yeah, I think he's been rock solid.
As a Yankee, if you look at it from this go around with the Yankees, yes, he has been solid. I personally think that it is going to be a coin flip between he and Clark Schmidt. But the reason why he has the advantage is because Schmidt is not healthy right now.
Right. And I also think Cortez is a ultimate competitor, gamer, great for clubhouse chemistry. Him and Trevino have a great thing going. Yeah. The whole team likes each other, basically. I mean, Stroman has fit in wonderfully. Verdugo, they all like each other.
My Stroman fit in well, and I did want to make a mention because you talked about this at the top of the hour with regard to Marcus Stroman. I'm not surprised that he showed out against a pretty good Braves team because of his National League experience. This is a guy that did not have the best go around with that team in Flushing, and he did not have a lot of great things to say about our team. But the truth of the matter is that he has made the best of the opportunity. He's been nothing short of a professional, as you already alluded to. And, I am surprised that I am this pleased with Marcus Stroman.
And I also think he loves the Yankees. He's diehard. This is what he always wanted.
There are certain players that land on certain teams that it changes your perspective and it kind of brings the fan out of you again, or when you were a little, and when you cared about it in a more pure form. The Yankees are one of the teams in Major League Baseball that can do that. Our rivals, the Red Sox, are a team that can do that to a player. There are certain organizations in this league where you take a team like the former Indians, now the Guardians. Jose Ramirez, in my opinion, could have gotten buku dollars from any team in Major League Baseball. He has taken the hometown discount because he legitimately has an affection for playing for that organization and the way that fan base makes him feel as a player.
And I respect that.
As do I. I have all the respect for a player that does that. We know all about the powerhouses, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Orioles. Corey, who do you have as a surprise team that can make some noise in these playoffs that we don't see coming just yet?
Seattle, Houston. I definitely think if the Padres were to somehow sneak in, they would be a problem. I'm trying to think who else.
The Padres, because of the talent level, and
yes,
we got Juan Soto, who might be the best player of them all right now. But we gave up a healthy little package to those guys.
Yeah, and it's affected our team in ways. Michael King is a big loss for us.
Yeah, can't deny it. Michael King undeniably is a bit of a big loss, especially when you compound that with the fact that a super reliable guy over the years, Jonathan Loisiga, was lost, I believe, the second series of the year. I think it was during the Arizona series, if I'm not mistaken.
A gutting injury, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I actually recall that, yes. And, he might not be the same. The pen, it's an understatement because despite the injuries and the poor play lately, our pen still stands out. But the warts are showing, and it's because of the miles. And Carlos Rodon, I did want to ask you this. 2 rough starts against 2 potent lineups after really navigating his way rather well. Are you worried about him right now?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it's the ebbs and flows. He's a competitor. He's going to figure it out. He's healthy. That's all that matters to me, really.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying that is just huge because year one was one to forget. I remember Roger Clemens' first year in the Bronx, and he replaced a fan favorite in a deal that of course, being David Wells.
Clemens wasn't that great his first year.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
He had more than his fair share of issues, and he was replacing a guy that pitched a perfect game and was just everything you could possibly be to a championship club, which David Wells was. Now, David Wells' second go-around with the Yankees wasn't as monumental. He had his moment in the sun in 1998, undeniably. And then actually 99 in Toronto, he was pretty awesome.
He's an underrated pitcher.
No, absolutely. The guy hung around for a very long time. And when you do that, there's a reason. You take guys like Jamie Moyer, that dude seen it all.
Yep. Look at Charlie Morton.
That's a good one too. That's another
40 years old and he's still doing it. I know they roughed him up tonight, but he's still a good pitcher.
No doubt. That is actually a really good shout. That is a pretty good shout there, Charlie Morton. So before we get out of here, I'm going to name two teams from each league that can be potential scary if they make a move or two and just things go their way. Kansas City Royals, they're not going anywhere for a while. This is not the end-all, be-all anything for them, even if they fall short. Their foundation is very good, and they are going to be around for quite some time, in my genuine opinion.
I think they have a top 5 player in the league on their squad right now, Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, Bobby Witt Jr., I actually drafted him in my fantasy league where I had an opportunity to take a couple of Yankees. So the fact that I did that was not easy because, I love having my Yankees on my squad.
I actually went against the grain this year and didn't have any Yankees until I finally got Stroman. He's the only Yankee I have.
Only Yankee I had originally in terms of draft value was actually Clay Holmes. I had an opportunity to get Judge, but I just had a vibe about Bobby Witt Jr. So our boy Brett actually drafted Judge and Soto.
Wow.
Back to back.
Damn.
And Brett is currently in second place in our league.
I'm getting my ass kicked this year because simply there's some guys that aren't producing. Manny Machado has let me down.
Machado's let a lot of people down. It goes back to that point I was getting at about the Sergio point with certain marquee names. And I'm not trying to be a prick and pick on the Mets, but a guy that always stands out to me that's just not as good as everything that he brings financially to a burden to a team is a Francisco Lindor.
Absolutely. They paid Lindor to be the best shortstop in baseball, and he's not.
I mean, you could make a logical argument that a guy on a rookie deal like an Anthony Volpe is like right there.
Yeah, I was reading the other day that Volpe basically rates as like the only shortstop that rates better defensively is Witt Jr. Like Volpe is right up there with the best defenders in the league. He's elite.
Yeah, Volpe is only going to get better. And when you think about the illustrious history of the New York Yankees, I think it's rather remarkable that he is one of only 4 guys that started on opening day in his rookie season.
Yep.
That is some seriously good company.
He's just a nice kid. Like, he really is.
He embodies a huge part of what being a Yankee is all about.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think the Yankees are very fortunate to have him. And it's so easy when you have a team headed by Soto and Judge where a guy like Volpe could be overlooked. But make no mistake about it, the shortstop position in Major League Baseball and all that it brings, outside of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, he is next up in terms of truly being that offensive difference maker. If I had to give a 4th place guy, it would be Stanton.
Yeah. I also think Judge has really embraced the captain role. You know, he welcomed Verdugo. He's really put his imprint on that.
Yeah, that was a huge captain move. And I got to give Verdugo props, too, because Alex Verdugo was not expected to be well received, and he had to work for it.
Yep.
And that is all he has done. And I mean, like I said, with the Dominguez thing, Verdugo has a value where it looked like, okay, this is a band-aid for a year, and then he'll find a new team, and we'll move on to.
Yeah.
But now you got a situation where the Yankees are going to be very interested in making sure that he's a Yankee for multiple years now.
This is the thing. He's only 27 years old.
Correct.
He's not, an over the hill guy ready to ride into the sunset,
But I got to say, like, his impact this particular year for the Yankees trumps his impact the last couple of years for the Red Sox.
Absolutely. I think his time ran out with Boston. And also, I think there was a lot of pressure. He was traded Mookie Betts deal. I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
And some of it just has to do with right place, right time, or the opportunity itself.
Yep.
Take a guy like Didi Gregorius. We're talking about the shortstop position. Go back to that for a second. He had the unenviable task of having to replace the captain, Derek Jeter. And quite frankly, while he might be one of the more forgotten or underappreciated Yankees in recent memory, what he did was really incredible. And, but to the point about certain teams make the man and things of that nature, he fell off very quickly after the organization.
Yep.
But he had definitely some good moments.
He did. For a good 3-year period, he was rock solid, and he played good defense.
No, it's massive. It truly is massive. I know you probably remember this, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. Who was the last starting shortstop for the New York Yankees prior to Derek Jeter taking that over all the way in '96?
That was Tony Fernandez.
Look at that. Not even a hesitation. Now, let me ask you this. This one might actually be a bit of a head scratcher just because he's an easy guy to forget. Who was the full-time second baseman prior to being injured going into the '96 season? I'll give you a little bit of a hint.
Pat Kelly?
Damn, dude. I like it. Not even a hesitation.
I'm good like that, man. Do you play Name That Yankee when you're watching the games? I do pretty good at it.
Yeah, anything Yankee related for the most part, even if it's before my time, I'm pretty good with it because of the dad that I had. Because my old man, this is like how Idris likes to bust my chops about like the City Island thing with De Niro and Colangelo.
Yep.
Truth be told, man, that really was me and Pops when we were
right
in that mode. My dad, in addition to teaching me a lot about the NFL, really drilled in all kinds of Yankee stuff that sticks with me to this day. Because sometimes people will compliment me, which I greatly appreciate, and they'll be like, "Bro, like you're so fluid with talking about the Yankees and just bang, bang, bang," and it's like you don't really miss a beat, no matter how far back some of this stuff was.
I'm serious. We could do a Yankee show every week, and it would do big. People want it; they really do.
Yeah, that's something that I've strongly considered, because the thing with our team right now on the show is that we have a nice combination of guys.
Yep.
And, I have mentioned to Zappy recently that with the different time zones, this and that, I would actually like to start working in various teams, all for one common goal. And, I think it would give the viewers a cool experience of seeing Zappy and Idris more so in the host role.
Yep.
And, one thing that I take pride in when it comes to this show is I like to give my guys the ability to continue to enhance doing this stuff, because best believe, as a member of the Jordan Patrick Show, my original podcast roots, it took me a minute to learn as you said, the ebbs and flows of this stuff. And believe me, you never have it all the way figured out. And
No.
you know, the brand is still growing, but
I'm still learning. There's areas I can improve on. Other sports I'm not as fluid in, but
we all could. But believe me when I tell you, the thing that I enjoy about doing this show is that every person that is involved in being a contributor, and my two main co-hosts, Zap and Idris, you got Bretsky, you got Shet. Football season, you'll get some drop-ins from the Mass, Quinton Moore. Daniel Nunez has come on the show. Point to be made is everybody brings a different dynamic, and that's part of one of the challenging things about being a host, because you always want your people to be able to accentuate their qualities, their truths.
And everybody brings something to the table in a different way, I feel.
That is something I embrace on the show, because I encourage always be yourself. And that's something that, like, I always want to stand out with this particular show, because, when I look at, the mothership, sometimes I think that they steal people's personalities in order to drive some kind of, and when you think about some of the greatest voices and people that the mothership has produced, and I want to make this clear, I am not insulting anybody that currently works for the mothership. I'm just saying that not what we grew up on.
It's not, and it's a dying product now over there.
Well, you know what it is too. The growth of the podcast has like, you look at a guy like a Shannon Sharp, Club Shay Shay.
Yes.
You look at Joe Rogan. You look at the Kelsey boy. A lot of options. That's just on the sports realm. Let alone,
all the smoke.
All the smoke is good stuff. Got a lot of good ones, man. And they range from seriousness to, Drink Champs.
It's a good show.
Yes, indeed. And that's going to be another conversation for another night, because although it's not new, so to speak, I have many a view on the Kanye interview and the recourse, and also the way that the guys from Drink Champs handled it. Some of it I agree with. Some of it,
yeah.
Corey, before we get out of here, anything that you want to say particular?
I just want to make another shout out about Willie Mays, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
I just feel like I was watching clips and old clips today and interviews, and it's just how much he meant to the game is unheralded. It's like it's truly an end of an era of that time.
Yeah, it's sad, because we have lost so many legends over the past few years. And, you have different wings of this stuff in terms of who's star and legend status, things of that nature. Willie Mays was the total package on the diamond. He was the total package as a human as well. And
was.
Yeah, but the way I look at it, and the beauty of the impact, is that when people like him pass on, they never truly die.
No.
It's just that they no longer are here in the physical. But when you are a legend
Exactly
of that mass proportion of a Willie Mays, the God's honest truth is, legends never die. I think that's the best way to put it. Legends never truly die. I know sometimes it seems a little cheesy, but it is true. I like hope.
And Bob Costas said it best, really. He was like, to know Willie Mays was to look beyond the numbers. As great as they were, you had to have seen them to appreciate them.
Yeah, I got to give Costas a shout for that, because there are certain players that you really do. Like, I know that, okay, Junior Griffey, when you look at his career, basically the Kingdom Seattle version, that era of his career, that juncture of his career, nobody was better, and he brought something to the game that the game never truly saw. Willie Mays, he brought that. certain generational guys bring that you don't see, but
Yep.
maybe every 40 or so years, and that's what makes those guys so damn
Yep.
special. I don't
It
remember Griffey being hurt as a member of the Reds. Or being an old man with the White Sox. I'm talking about that first run as a member.
1990s. Yeah.
Yeah, from a career standpoint, I understand that he wanted to honor his father and go to Cincinnati, but man, oh man, did he make a boo-boo leaving Seattle.
He did, and I think it's just the way he played is why he had so many injuries. He didn't know any other way.
Oh, he would literally run through a wall, and some of his bigger injuries were moments after making some of the the plays that are kind of like Polaroids of our childhood.
Yep. And he just brought a charisma. I mean, he was marketable, which is something that's missing today a bit.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Aaron Judge has that.
For sure.
Corey, as always, it's nothing short of a pleasure to talk baseball with you.
Yes, sir.
Time this show out for my entire drive, and I have just arrived at my destination.
That's beautiful.
Corey, you're awesome. I appreciate the time as always.
Yes, sir. It's been a blast.
Excellent show, my man. Until next time, he is Corey and I am Richie. Please like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. We may be going live tomorrow again, but we will be keeping you in the know. Announcements to come. For Corey, I'm Richie. Have a terrific night.
See you guys.